Now it's my pleasure to introduce Sherry, our Toastmaster and discussion leader for the evening. Sherry Simmons has been a Toastmaster since 1989. She has earned not one, but two distinguished Toastmaster recognitions in the Legacy program. Yep, congratulations. She's currently working in several paths and belongs to several clubs, including Anchor, Citizens of the World, and Advancing Alaska. This year, she joined Nerdmasters and joined us happily in Sound Advice to get the benefits of the Leadership Club. Please welcome Sherry.
Thank you, Madam President Judy. Change happens. I'm not the same person I was when I joined Toastmasters. Are you? Our journey changes and we change with it. When many of us joined Toastmasters, we were using the Legacy program, and now we have transitioned to Pathways. You might be asking yourself, what should I do next? Have you recently decided to become more involved as a club or district officer? Or are you a current officer preparing to pass on the role to a newer member? Our panel of experienced Toastmasters will share what they've learned to help you successfully make those transitions. Theo Hunt, DTM, will provide critical research behind transitions. Jenny Grabowski, DTM, will discuss transitions in becoming a leader. Kathy Cross-Reese will tell us about club transitions, and Mary Morrison, DTM, PDD, PID, will talk about negotiating your personal needs. Theo Hunt, DTM, has been instigating change and supporting transitions for almost 20 years. She has personal experience with change, such as changes in her career by taking new positions and in her life, most recently by getting a dog. In fact, she's currently in a 4-year transition as she gets her PhD in organizational development and change. This leads to her professional experience with change. As an organizational development consultant and coach, she gets paid to help individuals, teams, and organizations with change. She supports transitions daily. Some examples are: 1, coaching leaders to achieve their professional development goals. 2, facilitating process improvement, work sessions with teams eliminating problem points and shortening cycle time. And 3, setting strategic plans for organizations to achieve their long-term vision and short-term goals. Theo will share critical research behind transitions, starting with the definition of transitions, states of transitions, and a model to consider when transitioning with groups. Please help me welcome our first panelist, Theo Hunt.
When I started my job as a regulatory compliance officer in May of 2003, I remembered very clearly being frustrated, angry, confused. As a mortgage loan closer, I took in more money and had incentives for what I would actually be performing. I got bonuses based off of my productivity. Every single day, I closed multiple loans and I was good at it. I was very good at it. I had the feeling of accomplishment every day when I came home. I hit my numbers, my loan closings were clean and clear. It was the perfect job. And then I transitioned. I transitioned into that regulatory compliance officer position. And I was frustrated, angry, and confused. It was very different. I was paid to sit at my desk reading and researching regulations. I'd talk to people. They'd be internal to the organization. They'd be external to the organization. We'd talk. I'd draft up documents. I'd meet with leadership. I'd make changes to the drafted documents. I'd train staff. Some days I'd wonder what I accomplished at all, why I took a cut in pay, what the struggle over words really was all about. I almost went back. Honestly, now looking back at it, I'm not really sure why I didn't go back to being a mortgage loan closer. I really enjoyed that job. And it could have been because during my transition, I joined Toastmasters. But I can tell you that it was the first job that I've ever had supporting change and transitions with individuals on the individual level, with teams within the mortgage and real estate department, and within the organization as a whole. We all have had experience with transitions. We've all experienced change. Some are small, like getting a new pair of running shoes, and some are huge, like moving across the country for a new job in a new career. There's both an art and a science to transitions. And today I'm going to share a little bit about the science and the research behind transitions. Today I'm going to share a definition of transitions, some factors that influence your ability to transition, the Bridges model to share states of transitions, and a model to consider when transitioning with groups. To do that, I'm going to share my screen. First, the transitions definition. A transition is any event or non-event that results in changed relationships, routines, assumptions, and roles, as defined by the individual experiencing it. That's what a transition is. From the research. So, quick question, and I think we have a poll for this. And just answer the first question, if you will. How comfortable are you with transitions?
Just a reminder, people who are co-hosts cannot participate.
And it looks like you can't only answer one question. You have to answer all three questions at once. Is that correct, Zoom host?
You can answer the first one and we can leave it open. We won't actually see the results until all of them have been answered.
It was set up as one continuous document.
Okay.
So I don't know if I'm completely answering your question. Yes, you have to hit submit for the replies to be visible.
We can't hit submit.
Until you answer all three questions.
Right.
That's okay. It's not a big deal. Why don't we pause on the poll? Why don't you bring it up later? We'll ask it a different time when I share more information.
Okay, my apologies.
No, you're fine. I don't know that my explanation was very clear. Excuse me.
I will relaunch it at a later point. So
It's okay, James. I have a different solution. We'll launch it later.
that works. I have it ready.
Perfect. So in transitions, there's three types of considerations with transitions generally. And you look at the type of transition, the context of the transition, and the impact of the transition. And I'm going to take each one of these a little bit more in depth. First, let's focus on the type of transition. Transitions can be anticipated, like graduating from college. Ones that can, well, maybe that's not a very good example, because anticipated transitions are ones that can occur predictably. And sometimes it's not quite as clear when you're graduating from college, but hopefully you have a very clear path forward graduating, and you can anticipate that transition. Another type of transition is unanticipated transitions, when they're not predictable or scheduled, such as a divorce or a sudden death of a loved one, right? It comes out of the blue. You can't anticipate it. And there's also non-events. Transitions that are non-events, that they're expected but don't occur, such as the failure to be admitted to medical school. They can be personal non-events, ripple non-events, resultant non-events, delayed non-events. But they're transitions you're anticipating, but they do not occur. Those are the three main types of transitions. Another consideration with transitions is context. Your own personal relationship with the transition and the setting in which the transition takes place. For example, if you learn about a divorce in front of a handful of friends at somebody's wedding or something along those lines, the context may have a larger impact on you than the transition itself. And the impact is determined by the degree to which a transition alters your daily life. How much does it change? These are all considerations to think about when transitioning. And there's 4 things that influence your ability to transition: the situation, yourself, your own personal connection to the transition, and the support you have in place, such as intimate relationships, networks of friends, communities, and strategies or coping responses that can modify the situation, that can control the meaning of the problem, or that can aid in managing stress in the aftermath. These are all things that can influence your ability to transition, and a lot of them you have control over. Bridges' model helps you identify what state of transition you're in, what stage of transition you're in, and gives you ideas of what you can do in those different stages of transition to feel more powerful and actually influence the transition more effectively. There's 5 different stages. One happens before you even enter a transition, and it's called not yet in transition. And then you have the 3 stages of transition, which you can see there: letting go, neutral zone, new beginnings. And the final stage of finished with a transition. When you're in various stages and states of transition, you have different levels of productivity. When you're in endings as a state of transition or letting go, sometimes you're highly productive at first because you're kind of ignoring the fact that there's a transition, but quickly your frustration, guilt, anxiety, stress, self-absorption tends to reduce your productivity as you transition from letting go to the neutral zone of transition. And then in this wilderness or neutral zone, in that spinning anxiety of the unknown, you tend to pop back out and actually increase productivity as you get clearer on what that future state looks like. So there's the three main states of transitions: letting go, neutral zone, and new beginning. And in those states, you have a variety of different feelings and coping mechanisms to help support you through those transitions: letting go, neutral zone, and new beginnings. Finally, something to think about as a leader, because often in Toastmasters and in our regular daily lives, we're in transition with people. Individuals transition differently. The impact of transitions is different on individuals. Keep in mind that people will be at different stages of transition. Often leaders are out ahead of their staff and actually celebrate transitions long before their staff even reach the finish line of a transition. So as a model to help support you in your leadership and in transitioning within groups, think about where people are at as you lead them through transitions. And maybe if you're like me, when you transition and experience your next transition, you'll have a better feel because you'll have more tools and techniques to realize what you're experiencing as you go through change.
Thank you so much, Theo.
Should I relaunch that poll now?
I gave up on the poll. I'm over it.
All right.
Thanks, though.
No problem. Maybe we can launch it at the end of the meeting for conversation.
Thank you, Theo. Just so much great information. And I hadn't even heard of the bridges theory of the model and until you had mentioned it to me. And I just think we need all of that to continue. What we've done over the past year, we've gone through lots of transitions, and I think we're all continuing to do that. So thank you for providing that information for us. Our next speaker is Ginny Grabowski. Leadership in your Toastmasters community. That sounds a bit scary, doesn't it? Ginny Grabowski, DTM, began her leadership in Toastmasters as club president. It seemed a bit scary, but turned out to be a whole lot of fun. From there, she went on to serve in almost every club level leadership position because it was always fun. She met new people and she never felt alone. These experiences gave her the confidence to become a district conference chair and then run for district leadership, where she was introduced to an even wider Toastmasters world of support and fun. Tonight, she will encourage you to step into leadership roles. Is it always easy? No, but you'll learn and grow more than you can imagine. Please welcome Ginny Grabowski.
The chain of support. To me, that is what Toastmasters is all about, and that is the difference between a chain of command, which is what we're used to hearing in corporate settings, or which we may hear in military for sure, but any structured setting tends to focus on the chain of command. Who's in charge of whom? Who is going to be telling you what to do when they are the leader? The chain of support. To me, that is what leadership in Toastmasters is all about, and it is by far the most important piece of being a leader in Toastmasters. I remember when I first got involved in any of the leadership positions, whether it was at the club level or as I started doing a little bit more and a little bit more in Toastmasters, I got involved with a coach who had me do something called the Gallup Strength Test. And to make a really long story short, if you're not familiar with that, each way that your numbers work out has a little bit of a tagline, I'm going to call it. And mine was ready, fire, aim. And I said, yes, 100%, that is who I am. And that in many ways has been my leadership. Sometimes it's been great, sometimes it has been a challenge. But I return to this chain of support and knowing that as I have grown and expanded my leadership experience, what I have really grown and expanded is that chain of support. I have found people not just in my club, I have found people first in my city, then I found people within my state, and then I found people within my district, and then I found people within the world. And that to me is the beauty of leadership in Toastmasters, is number one, knowing that you are never alone. And number two, knowing that there is always someone that you can turn to help you to do the job better. I find it challenging not knowing exactly what I'm getting myself into, which goes back to my ready, fire, aim. Now, again, for me, this generally works. I tend to jump in and figures one way or another, I'll probably figure it out. And many of us in this club have been leaders at the district level and beyond. So you all know and are very familiar with the idea of getting more support and reaching out farther and expanding your horizons, expanding your reach. For those of you who may not be as familiar, who may be guests tonight, I will tell you that knowing that you want to do more, thinking about the person and the leader that you want to become, not so much thinking about what are the exact tasks that I'm going to have to do. The tasks will present themselves, the tasks will become apparent, the tasks are listed for you on a checklist for all of the things that you need to do. The experience of becoming a leader is something that is invaluable, and it is something that is uniquely learned in Toastmasters. And as you move into district, my talk this evening is going to focus really on that district level leadership. This is going to include your first step outside of your club, stepping into that area director position, which starts moving from everybody that I know in my club, my 12 to 20 people that I know, stepping out and starting to meet people most likely in your city, in your local area. That's step one. And your job there is really to support people. Your job is to make sure that everyone can get the help that they need. And the beauty of that is then you do not have to come up with the way to dictate what everyone else needs to do. If you start to find yourself doing that, it means something's probably not going the way it's supposed to. What we are there to do is answer questions, to support people, to help them. When I was district director and we had our area and division director training, one of the first things I said to the team was, if you find yourself sitting in a room by yourself and saying, this is ridiculous, this is not what I signed up for, you are 100% correct. It is not what you signed up for. It is not what you are supposed to be doing. We are here to support and to help each other, and we are here to learn and grow together. My first position of leadership as an area director, I absolutely 100% ready, fire, aim. Someone said, hey, we have an area director position. I said, sure, I don't even know what that means, but I'm in. I got put into the position and that was great. I will tell you, I did a terrible job. Thankfully, I don't think many of the people who I was area director with are still in Toastmasters. And that's lucky for me because they can't rat me out and tell you what a bad job I did. I had my own personal reasons for choosing to do a terrible job, but even in doing a terrible job, what I will tell you is that the learning that went in that then helped me to become a better leader is priceless. I learned that even though there were things that I could not or chose not to do, I could ask for help from other people. I could ask for help to understand why something that I was having that this is ridiculous moment, I was able to find out why, number one, my perspective was not correct. I was able to understand why what I was doing or was being asked to do was important. And I was able to get help to complete the job that I needed to do. And if you take nothing else away from my talk this evening, it is just know that, number one, you cannot fail. There's learning in everything that you do. Can we make mistakes? Absolutely. Can we learn from those mistakes? Absolutely. Can we pretend those mistakes didn't happen and not learn anything from them? Of course. Hopefully we don't do that. The beauty is to learn from the mistakes that we make. I can guarantee you, whether it's at district leadership, and again, whether that's starting at the area director, coming in as a division director, I actually never was a division director. There was an opportunity to step up for club growth director, and I said, ready, fire, aim, here I am, I'm going to do it. And I knew that the people that I was going to be working with, if I got elected, were going to be great leaders who also were great teachers. And I learned a lot. So if you walk away from this with one thing to keep in mind, it is keep in mind that you will learn, you will grow. As Sherry said, you will not be the same person at the end of the year that you were when you came in. And I guarantee it will increase your ability to lead. It will, if nothing else, it will increase your connection and your community with the other people in District 32. And to me, that piece is priceless. So whether you are like my husband, who is the exact opposite of my ready, fire, aim, he is ready, look, measure twice, maybe a third. Ooh, let's measure one more time. Now, maybe I think, whoop, let me go check and see if I'm ready to fire. Or if you are a ready, fire, aim, let's do it, action taker. Either way, there is a place in leadership and there is a lot to learn, and there is value to both sides of those. Learning that piece will help you to be a better leader and will absolutely help you to be a better person. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Jenny. I love that chain of support. And I think that we have all found that Toastmasters provides that when we have the opportunity to take on roles. So thank you for that. Suggestions and lots of good information for us. Our next speaker, Kathy Cross-Reith, is the current president of Meridian Toastmasters in Lacey, Washington. She has previously served as the Sergeant of Arms, VP membership, and treasurer. She enjoys learning and growing in her personal and professional leadership development, as well as encouraging others in the process. She recently participated in the evaluation contest after a challenge from another member. Please help me welcome Kathy Cross-Reith.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the honor of speaking at this panel. When I first received the invitation, I wasn't quite sure about what was going to occur, but now I see, and I am going to submerge myself in the process. As the current president of Meridian Toastmasters, I've held several presidential positions, not of the United States, but I've held presidential positions, one of which recently is the president of the Lions Club. I am the current VP, so I'm stepping in that presidential position. I've served as the president of the Realtors Association, which is my current occupation. And I've served as president in some other smaller service clubs and organizations. So I understand the power of leadership and I understand the power of collaboration. And I want to talk about 3 different topics when it comes to clubs. One is culture, the second is leadership, and the third is legacy. When you step into a leadership position, the president sets the climate, if you will, for culture. And what I mean by that, culture, when I stepped into my particular position, I wanted it to be fun, I wanted it to be friendly, and I wanted it to be encouraging. So those were my 3, if you will, values or mantra that I set the tone for the club. Doesn't mean that we maybe don't have fun all the time. It just means that that is our goal, is to have fun, to encourage, and to, I forgot my third one. Fun, encourage, and friendship. There it is, friendship. So those are my 3 mantras for my particular group right now. So culture is something that's very important, and you may not think that that's important, but I did see when I listened with the screen off that there is an existing culture in this particular club. And what I sensed is it's friendly, it's encouraging, and it's growth driven. That's what I took away from it. It may or may not be true, but that is what I've extracted just from my little bit of interaction. When people come to your club and they hear what's going on and they see the exchange, they come up with their own analysis. My particular club, we started to call ourselves Soul Meridian. We called ourselves Soul Meridian because we were so friendly, so encouraging, so uplifting. The guests began to call us, "You're Soul Meridian." That became our tagline, so to speak. In real estate, I have a tagline as well. That tagline is building real relationships through real estate. In real estate, I love to build the relationship before the transaction. If people don't know how much you care, they really don't care how much you know. So those are the themes, if you will, for culture. When it comes to leadership, as it was stated, I've stepped into several different roles. My first role was VP of membership. I entered into my first meeting kind of leery about what Toastmasters was about. However, I quickly surmised that the particular group that I joined was where I wanted to plant my seeds, if you will, and sprout my wings and learn more about this art of public speaking, how to command language better, how to present my message better. All of those I've learned, and I am still growing, still expanding, still reaching, still encouraging. The leadership role that I transitioned from as membership, I transitioned to Sergeant of Arms. Each one of those roles was basically a role that I thought I could step into and not take away from my business. However, if you are very into being a support to your team, you will step in with, with all hands on deck to provide support wherever it's needed. As a Sergeant of Arms, I quickly learned the systems of what my duties were, and I also supported the person that was taking the position that I had before as VP of membership. I think it's very important to coach and to provide support for those roles that you leave behind and not abandon them. When people step into those roles, they want to know what's happened before and how they can grow upon those roles. When I stepped into presidency, I learned a lot from the past president. My past president of my club was Christy Danforth. She moved on to be a district leader. She provided a nice climate of wholesome, friendly conversation. She invited us over to her home, so we had a nice time together and getting to know each other beyond the club. And I think that's so important. It's great to have a professional organization. It's also great to get to know people behind the scenes and how you can encourage them beyond the screen or beyond the in-person interaction. The third role that I transitioned from a VP of membership, Sergeant of Arms, to now president, the unlikely president I like to call myself, was because our club started shrinking. Whoever has that problem, our club started shrinking, and I found myself eager to keep us afloat. I kind of reluctantly raised my hand and said, sure, I'll be the president, but I didn't take that role with any hesitation, even though I wasn't really excited about taking on another leadership role. I understood that it meant that I was needed. I was needed to carry on the legacy of our particular club and to be the catalyst to help it grow and to expand. be the catalyst of the encourager, be the catalyst of setting the tone of our club. The third area that I'd like to talk about is legacy. Legacy. The question is, what are you leaving behind as your legacy in your club? Are you providing the assistance to the person that comes after you, or the person that comes before you? It's basically like you're extending your arms out to provide support to the person, or the baton, you're passing the baton on to the person that is succeeding you, or you're looking back at the person who you came after to find out what were their strengths, what can you build upon that they did very well, or what can you build upon that they maybe could use improvement on. I quickly found out as the president that we did not have a consistent club success plan. That was my initiative, to create a club success plan. Every meeting that we have, our officers meeting once a month, besides the last couple of ones, we have a review of the club success plan, and we are almost complete. That will be my legacy in my particular group, to complete that club success plan and pass it on to our incoming president, which is Mr. Michael Brulette. He is one of the only original Meridian Toastmasters in our club. I think it's very fitting for someone who has seen the club from beginning to present that could really take our club and grow it even further. So I'm excited to be in this world of Toastmasters and to learn, to grow, to stretch and transition. So again, culture, leadership, and legacy. What are you leaving behind for those that are coming after you and those that have come before you? And I don't know where I'm at on time, so I'm just kind of looking around. I will go ahead, I'll go ahead and thank you. I'll go ahead and close out by saying thank you so much for this opportunity to share. I've learned so much just from the speakers that have come before me, and I'm sure I'll learn so much more. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Kathy. The reason I asked Kathy to be a speaker was that I saw that her club had grown from small numbers to become a distinguished club. And I knew that she must have had a part in that. So great job. And thank you very much for sharing. I'm sure that all of the clubs and organizations that you lead have fun and friendship, and it's great. So thank you for sharing that. Our next speaker is Mary Morrison, a member of our club here. Are you considering raising your hand to serve as a leader in Toastmasters? Or maybe you've been trapped. Maybe you've been tapped by someone to serve. As a past club leader, district leader, region advisor, and international director, Mary Morrison has faced many decisions about stepping into leadership roles. And she's learned there's always more to the decision than simply saying yes. Join me in welcoming our next panelist, Mary Morrison, with Negotiate What You Need.
Oh, listen, can I just give you a call back? I'm just in the middle of starting a speech. I'll talk to you soon, hon. Bye, 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 bye. Ooh, sorry. Oh my
Mary,
gosh.
real quick.
Oh, what?
How long?
Oh my gosh. What? Hang on. Center myself. I heard 6 to 8 minutes.
Okay.
I mean, sorry. No. 8 to 10. 8 to 10.
All right.
Maybe
Thank
I should
you.
make it 12 to 15. I'm not doing very well on time tonight. What's happening? Oh. The one thing I've learned about taking on any kind of leadership role in Toastmasters, or any role in life that's different than what I might have done before, is you have to match what you believe will be the amount of time needed, the amount of time you actually have for the job at hand. And you know what? There is never enough time to do everything that you believe you'd like to do. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, guests, I think we probably all share that. We all have that in common, that there seems to never be enough time. Tonight, I want to share a few things about some of the ways I've managed some of the transitions of stepping into some leadership roles, things that I really want to do. Maybe I'm not prepared for them as well as I think I could be or would like to have been. But there are steps we can take to prepare ourselves. So tonight I'm going to share a few things. One is talking about a plan A, and then spend a little time on a plan B, a plan C, and a plan D when things don't always work out as you expect them to. Plan A, 2 steps to plan A. 1, prepare yourself. This might go back to some of the things you heard from Ginny, how what she found out is she's a ready, aim, fire. And if ready, aim, fire makes you too uncomfortable, there are things that you can do to be more like, say, her husband's, which is, you know, aim, aim, aim again, and still be able to move off of those aiming moments to actually step into the role. So prepare yourself. Prepare yourself is step 1. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on prepare yourself because you've heard some tonight, some from Ginny, some from Kathy, and you've got a good framework from Theo about how you might be able to do that. The one thing I will say is there is so much support and resources out there for preparing yourself. Whether that's doing something as simple as putting 15 to 20 minutes on your calendar as a weekly event that you dedicate to the time to get ready for something, such as your club meeting. I have a vice president of education in one of my clubs who does that. Or possibly it's serving on a committee, so you get to understand what the role is, what the job is. You don't have to always just jump into things. If it's something you really know that you want to do eventually, you can take some time to prepare yourself. Not sure you want to serve as an area director? Serve as an assistant area director. Get involved in some of the cross trainings that take place. Not sure you want to serve on the trio? Ask to be on a committee with the conference, with club growth, build a new club. All of those things can help you see what kind of energy, what kind of leadership it takes to do those roles. So prepare yourself is one really good step. But it's not just your time to prepare yourself you want to consider. I'm going to spend a little more time on this topic because this is the one where I found the better I established the kind of support structure I needed, the better I succeeded in doing the role itself. So a couple of examples. As a district director, I was working in a job that was pretty much 9 to 5. It wasn't requiring a lot of me in the evenings or on weekends. So I didn't really have to worry a lot about whether I had time to do Toastmasters work until midway through the year. I had a new boss. Oh no, that was the second new boss for that year. And my organization hit a major budget crisis. And I started having to give up a lot of the time that I was using for Toastmasters for work opportunities. This caused me to do a lot of renegotiations somewhere. I tapped the team, the support structure, for more help than I probably would have. And that was a really good growth opportunity for me. But I also had to learn a little bit about how to negotiate in this new work world I was in because I had a new manager and wasn't quite sure how to work through and with her to really get done the things that I needed to do. For me, it meant establishing some non-negotiable times. Friday nights, Sundays, those to me were family times. If I needed to cheat a little and steal a little time from my family for those, they would understand, but not on an ongoing basis. So I learned to work a little more focused with some different types of priorities and with a lot of being explicit about what I could and couldn't get done by a specific time, because my new manager was highly demanding of knowing exactly when I could meet the deadlines that we had set. And in very, there were a lot of retributions if I didn't meet those demands. So I wanted to be really careful about it, and found one of the best ways to do that was to begin to be really clear with what I really wanted and how I could best meet those demands. I used my leave time when needed. I planned for my lunch hours. I wasn't getting the kind of exercise I wanted. I started having walking meetings, and most people were really appreciative of those. Little things like that where I could just kind of manage my way through the crises to get to a more stable point. Well, that year ended, and I didn't learn my lesson well because I stepped up for even more leadership, specifically in Toastmasters. And again, I found that Toastmasters are very committed, and we want each other to be very committed when we take on our leadership roles. And we have a lot of time demands of each other. So before I stepped into my next few roles. All right, perfect. So I had, as I stepped into more and more roles, the next few roles I took on in leadership in Toastmasters also meant I actually had to travel quite a bit more. And that meant I had to renegotiate and negotiate with each boss that I had. Not only did I take on new roles at work, but I had new bosses sometimes, new managers that came on. And I always found two things really beneficial. One, the more I could kind of hardwire what I was doing into my performance expectations of work. So work found value in my serving as a leader in Toastmasters. And most work will, I found, because they like their employees to take on leadership roles. It reflects well on the organization for the most part. So if that's true for you, then being able to negotiate that into your performance is something that's really valuable. But you have to be very explicit with the kind of support that you are looking for. Support in this case might mean I will have to have some extra days off. I will take my leave time to do my travel time. I'd like it to be considered when it's part of my performance review or performance the management that I did. And then there was the work, or not the work, but my personal life, where I really, my husband's not a Toastmaster, as I know many of our partner spouses are not. And sometimes they don't get that world of Toastmasters, how geeky we are about the love that we have for what we learn and how we operate in this organization. So that was always, again, with him, what's non-negotiable with him and what was negotiable. Where could he rely on me that we could do things together, and where would I need to have the extra kinds of support, renegotiating the work that we did around the house, even the kinds of time commitments we had with friends and family, all that kind of stuff. The more explicit you are, the better job you'll do, because you're not sitting worried about it. I know one woman kind of hid it from her husband that she was serving in the role she was serving in until she couldn't hide it anymore. And you know, that might work for some people. I wouldn't recommend it. So that's plan A. Plan B, C, and D. Plan B, before you say yes, say no. Say no to something, because we all only have so much time. And this is where you really want to know why you're doing what you're doing and make sure it can be the kind of priority that the work itself deserves and the people who work with you deserve. They deserve the kind of time commitment and priority that you require. Except you can't say no to anybody except me if I ask you. Yeah, don't think about that. Skip that plan B. Actually, it's kind of a joke, but it's really true that I never mind people saying no, as long as they don't mind my asking. I have a lot more no's than yeses. But do think about saying what you have to give up before you say yes. If something you really want, think that through. Plan C, connect with others who've done the job before. Get a mentor. Junie mentioned that it was how much the support structure means when you're going through the leadership roles. Whether that's serving as a club officer, you need your team to be with you, or serving as an area director. And that's true in your non-Toastmaster roles as well. None of us do these jobs by ourselves. And then plan D is delegate. And this really comes home when you're realize you've been elected to a position. That means we've given you the authority to do what we've asked you to do. Please do the job, but delegate the work to others so that you do leave that good legacy behind. Because it's not, if you're doing the work, often you're not doing the job itself, which is leading. I'd love to see everyone raise their hand in leadership. I think are all remarkable leaders. And if you know your why, that you want to do something, prepare yourself as best you feel you need to. Have a plan A where you can negotiate the time needed to do the work, to make the commitment something that's of value to everyone. Connect with others, prioritize your time, and delegate. I think you'll be successful, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Mary. I am extremely glad that you said yes rather than no when I asked you to be on this panel. Great presentation, and I think you gave us a lot of things to think about. And thanks for getting back on when we had a little bit of a problem there. Now we're going to have some breakout rooms. We've heard our panelists, and you're going to have an opportunity to go into a breakout room of your choice, led by one of our panelists. It will be for 15 minutes, and then we'll come back for a wrap up. So if you just, let's see. I'm seeing a breakout,
Does everybody have the breakout room?
Oh, scroll down so that you can find the person and then join that person.
Yes, you'll have to click on the broadcast rooms button in your control panel. It won't pop up automatically for you.
No, where do you get that? I do not have it. This came up at a conference I was at this weekend also. I don't have that breakout.
Where would you like to go to, Judy?
Theos.
Okay. Anyone else that's not able to assign themselves? Kathy, you have a specific room. All right, I'll assign you to your room, Kathy.
I'm not able to choose the room.
Which room would you like to go to?
Kathy?
All right, excellent. Anyone else?
I don't know how to get to my room. You're going to put me in there?
I just moved you to it. Did it not automatically move you? It obviously didn't automatically move you.
No.
I'm gonna move you. It should be asking you if you want to move now, Kathy.
When you were division director, supporting your team. Your team was fantastic.
Yeah. Well, that was probably the third time I was a division director. So
Third time's a charm.
I've been around the horn a few times.
Yeah. Well, it was great. Hey, Kyle. Hey, James.
Hello.
James, how's life in the new home?
Warmer than expected. It was snowing 2 weeks ago, and now it's in the 80s all week. And we're like, we did not pack clothes for this.
Oh. Excellent point.
Back to the cold winters, huh?
Right. I expected it to be still, at least, 60s, something cool, maybe. But yeah.
Is this normal for Fargo, or is this like, are the people in Fargo like, what the heck's going on?
No, they don't seem all that fazed by it. So evidently summer comes quick and they skip spring.
I think it's
last
probably
month was
pretty
blizzard
extreme
season
weather like all year long. You guys probably cycle up and down quite a bit because there's no water around, right? You're in the middle of the...
Well, we have river next to us. And we have lakes over in Minnesota. But yeah, it's mostly a lot of wind, a lot of flat. So there's not a lot to really absorb and retain and balance out the seasons. So, but yeah, it's blizzard season is October through April. It's been anticipated May to be basically, spring, cool. There's a bit of snow, that kind of stuff. But evidently summer hits hard and fast and cools off. So, okay. with a long autumn. Oh, well, it's funny. Yeah, it's going well though. Nice transition.
Let me interrupt for a second. Does anybody know this Sheldon Crocker?
Yes.
Because he's still out in the main room, probably chatting with Joanna.
Yeah, he chatted Joanna. He opted to stay out there and chat there. Okay,
fine. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't have a guest who didn't know what was going on.
Yep. He's he's over on East Coast in Canada, and so it's really late for him. Well, it's late for me too, but it's really late for him. And so he pops in once in a while, but he's dead tired and doesn't always have time to mental power to just engage as much. So he likes to observe.
Yeah, it is very late in his world.
Yeah.
Newfoundland, yikes. That's... Whew.
Yep. Really cool dude though. He attends Nerd Masters and Sound Advice pretty frequently.
Nice.
That's I thought I saw his
Yep.
Yeah, I thought I saw his name before.
Yeah, I think he's almost kind of like a groupie because he just kind of follows me around to all the clubs that I'm a member of. It's kind of weird. He joined he visited Harbor Club one time, and then I mentioned the other two clubs. He's been joining all these ones. We hang out on Facebook and whatnot. It's kind of funny. Right. He's a cool dude though.
That's funny. Cool.
So I was going to thinking about transitions.
Yes.
So I'm actually in the middle of 3 major life transitions right now. So career transition, right? Moving from web developer to a coach for web developers, and remote professionals and for communications, that kind of stuff. And then also transitioning, moving states, moving areas of the world, Pacific Northwest to Midwest, and also changing denominations, transitioning from, more of a non-denominational Baptist background into Eastern Orthodoxy, which is a huge mindset shift. It's
Into
really
what
nice.
kind of orthodoxy?
Eastern Orthodoxy.
What does that mean?
It's lots of history. They're the ones that the Catholics broke off from. So from Eastern Orthodox perspective, Catholics and Protestants are all Protestants.
Right.
Basically, yeah. So they're
Eastern Orthodoxy is heavily Greek based, isn't it?
Is that Greek and Russian?
Yeah, it's synonymous with Greek Orthodoxy in some ways.
Okay.
Greek Orthodoxy is technically one of the jurisdictions in it. There's also Russian Orthodoxy, Armenian Orthodoxy, etc. Based off what language is based off of. But there's historically speaking, there's Greek and Latin churches historically. And that was the main language that was spoken in the East and West because of the split of Rome. And so Greek Orthodoxy is synonymous with Eastern Orthodoxy, speaking historically, because it's off that way. So yeah, lots of history. That's a new nerddom of mine. So I could go a long way. I have stacks of books over here. Right here.
Yeah, no doubt, right?
Right. So a lot of transition, a lot of change, and I, in my personality, am highly adaptable. I've learned how to adjust with a lot of different things. I just kind of go with the flow and learn and grow through it. My wife is much less so. My wife is a lot more like your husband, Jenny, and she doesn't like things staying too stable, but she needs a lot of lead time and a lot of recovery time afterwards. And so being married to an entrepreneur is kind of terrifying and crazy. Yeah. But through all this stuff, and I've been watching her and, stewarding her as her husband, helping her, trying to provide emotional buffer, help her as I can. But it's challenging because I'll know and predict where she's going to have a crash, and it'll happen when she doesn't do it. I'm having a horrible day, I'm emotionally bucket overflowing, and like, yeah, I know, I predicted. It's like, how did you know? I'm like, I know you. I knew you were going to have a crash here on this day because I knew this was going to happen and that was going to happen because I watch and I observe. But how do you help? Because another separate observation, people often write books about things that they're bad at initially. So I am intuitively good at coming up with ideas, for example. So I'm not going to write a book about how to create ideas because that just comes naturally to me. I'm really bad at organization naturally. So I probably will write a book about that because I've had to learn it. I know all the pieces because I had to learn it and force myself to learn that. So I deal with change naturally. So it's hard for me to help somebody else who's bad at it because I don't know how to deal with the challenges that are inherent to it because I don't encounter them. So what are your long intro to how can I help somebody else, particularly someone close to me who's dealing with lots of change or is in proximal to lots of just change in general? And upheaval.
Well, let me ask you a question. When she has a breakdown moment or a day with the thing that you've predicted, what do you do for her then?
So typically, I try and give her permission to not do things. That's one of the biggest things that I do to help out because she's very perfectionist, all or nothing, and she gets the whole, self-judging, defeatist kind of, shame, guilt kind of cycle of I'm not doing all these important things. And so I verbally express her as like, it's okay for you not to do that. I'm giving you permission to not do these things, and helps to reinforce that side of it. And then sometimes I'll take them off her plate, do it myself, but that's one of the biggest things I do other than, giving her a hug. But
Right. Well, and the being there and the listening and not necessarily trying to fix it.
Not necessarily fixing, yeah.
Because as a general rule, women like to vent. We like to tell you what's going on. We don't necessarily need an answer. And sometimes when you give us the answer, we want to punch you.
Yes.
So, so sometimes just being there, like, it's great that you can anticipate that and know it. If there's anything that you can do beforehand to alleviate some of the not knowing part, right? The pieces that she needs to have in order. If there's anything you can do along those lines, great. But I would say being there, listening in a non-judgmental way is probably going to be the biggest part. Like just being open to it and not, because sometimes it's easy to give into her judging herself, right? And so then we either try to counteract that by saying, no, you're not, right? It doesn't really matter at that point what you think necessarily.
She knows it's invalid already, so being told that it's invalid doesn't help any because then she feels guilty for being guilty, and then
exactly. So it starts a spiral.
I get pissed at you for invalidating her opinion.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's mostly the be there. Like, it's great that you can anticipate it and know that, like, okay, I might need to take off on Tuesday because there's a good chance that Tuesday is going to be the day. Fantastic. And if you can be there for her for that. What I find with my husband is sometimes he doesn't like change, right? So he does the same thing. My husband has been threatening to retire for the last year and a half. He just got a raise, right? So, but just being ready for when that happens. So like what I've done on the backside is I'm like, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do the retirement thing. Like, I'm going to do the application for Medicare because I know that needs to be done. I'm going to do the application for Social Security because it needs to be done. So I'll involve him in those decisions and do the piece that I know I'm stronger at, which is like the online technical side, right? Even things like he doesn't like to travel. I am a travel junkie, right? So he will complain. Like we went to New Orleans a couple of years ago and I was like, hey, my friends and I want to go. Okay, great. I was like, I'm booking the trip. Oh, well, I don't know. I was like, well, here's the dates we're going. And I made the reservation, and the entire time that day on the plane, on the way to the airport, all of it, right? And he was just cranky and irritable, right? And if you knew, my husband is like the most mellow guy on the planet, but that whole morning I was like, right? But my reaction was, okay.
Mm-hmm.
We got there, he had the best time. Like he still talks about how great it was, right? He wants to go back to New Orleans. So all of that is good. Being that, just let them have their moments and be there to support them.
There's one other piece, because there's two pieces out of that recurring that I help out is making sure there's a lot of margin in place. So she's like, you like put a lot of stuff on one day, and then I'll like surreptitiously like spread it out in my mind how things are actually going to go, and then include margin in the plan. So I know that if we crash, we don't have enough spoons to get stuff done this day, we have margin to fill it out the rest of the day. So that's helped a lot, particularly with the move. The other one is not trying to fix, but providing a safe place for them to be prickly. Because that is one of my strengths, is I'm really hard to offend. So
I knew there was a reason I liked you.
Right? It's easy to get along with me because I was like people really grumpy, and I'm like, and
right, but
so
when it's your spouse,
I live
it's a
with her a
little
lot
different.
easier.
Yeah.
I want to mention a couple of things that I've learned to do with my wife. It took us a while to figure out there's certain things she needs to do to recharge.
Yeah.
She'll feel run down or get depressed, whatever. And if I take her to water, like a waterfall or the beach where she can hear and listen to the water and just sit without a lot of people around her and listen to water, that helps her recharge. The other thing is to get her to the top of a mountain.
Is
So-
she a Cancer?
What's that?
Locations.
Is she a Cancer?
I have no idea.
When's her birthday?
October 3rd.
Oh, no, I didn't. Okay.
Yeah. The other thing is, like Jenny said, she likes to vent. And while she will vent in the house, what we've discovered is going out for a car ride. I'll just get in the car and drive. And the first hour or two will be spent venting, and after that, we can start having discussions and fun.
Curious, her driving or you driving?
No, I'm driving.
Okay.
So
probably wouldn't be as stress relieving for her because I'm a new driver.
Well, but the physical aspect of it though is important because physically moving your body helps your body to move the cortisol and all of the stress hormones that are building up and creating the anxiety can help to dissipate those. So even going for a walk in your neighborhood
together in the mornings and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it can make a big difference. And especially if she's in a moment of heightened anxiety, that movement can be really important for just dissipating the hormones. Yeah, physiologically speaking.
Because she hates crying, but I keep telling her it's good for your internal chemical balance. So sweating also works.
Yeah. Sometimes you just need a good cry.
Yeah, I keep telling her that. But.
Yeah, it's just a different kind of emotional release. But yeah, the not judging it and do not try to fix it because we don't care. No, at that point, you don't necessarily care about the 17 solutions.
I have beat my head against that particular wall a couple of times.
Yeah, it's really annoying when you're giving solutions and like, I don't want to hear them.
I'm a firstborn engineer, I got to fix it.
That's always a man thing because I do the same thing. Somebody vents with me, I try to fix it.
which is funny, Sherry. Yeah, because like Carl and I are swapped in a lot of the gender roles type stuff. And I find myself sometimes being the one who stop trying to fix it. I just want to vent. And she's the one who's trying to fix things. So sometimes there's that inverse, and sometimes it's the other way around. It depends on the context.
Right. So it doesn't necessarily
plot back and forth. So you have to be really careful to figure out, okay, is he being the fixer or am I being the fixer? What are we doing?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things Carol and I do a lot is we will say, I want to tell you something, and this is what I want from you. So for instance, I don't get pissed off at people a lot, but every once in a while, somebody really irritates me. And of course, it happens in Toastmasters once in a while, somebody's really irritating me. And if I don't tell Carol, I just want you to listen so I can vent. If I don't tell her that, while I'm describing that person pissing me off, she's busy loading the shotgun.
Yeah.
because she wants to defend me.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'll just tell her, I just want you to listen so I can do this. Or, she'll start telling me something. I said, wait a minute. Do you want suggestions? You just want me to listen? Oh, just listen. Okay. And then she goes, we actually negotiate that up front sometimes.
I do that with brainstorming because if it drives her nuts if I'm giving ideas and she's not sure, is this a plan or a brainstorm? Because those two completely different things.
Yeah.
And I can brainstorm uprooting and living in Kenya for a couple of years. That doesn't mean I want to actually do it. I just want to talk about it.
Yeah.
If I don't tell her ahead of time, I'll freak her out.
Well,
Iceberg Alley online, essentially. So it's for chartering a club.
We're glad to have you.
Welcome back. I think everyone is back in the main room now. James is in the waiting room. We'll let him back in, I guess.
I did.
That was weird.
Okay.
So
So I want to thank all of our panelists and our attendees for joining us tonight. I hope you gained some insight into your upcoming transitions. And before I hand over the meeting, I'd like you to write one thing in the chat that you plan to do with the information that you learned. And don't hit enter. We'll all do that at once. I'm going to open up, make sure that I can see my chat. Make sure that you send it to everyone. And then hit enter and we will just have a little chat flood of things that we're going to give some acknowledgement to our speakers and just kind of see. I'm attempting to annoy James. Well, that's a good one. Yes, I know Kyle and James.
It's a high challenge, Kyle. I've had people deliberately attempt that before and fail completely. It was hilarious.
Chain of service. Be explicit about culture. Knowledge is immense. Lots of fun things in there. So I just really want to thank everyone again. And I am going to turn the meeting to our general evaluator, Rosanna Zinnick.
Hi, everybody. Well, I've observed a lot of things that I can take to heart, but what I would also like to reveal to you. First off, in chronological order, I really appreciate the time that we took to honor a loss that our club member is going through. That 1 minute moment of silence is a gem, not only to do together, but to honor the people who are at the center of that change. So I really appreciated that. And I'm really proud to know that we do that for each other. I am going to talk about our delivery. I appreciated that when we lost a speaker and we were picking up where the speaker left off, all of you were talking at one time. I have you in gallery view, which just tells me how much attention we give to our speaker. So while someone's making a delivery, we most certainly are accepting that and listening in. I appreciated the explanation of the breakouts and that even in filling the time where we lost our speaker, the Toastmasters said, let's share what we've heard. And the excitement that we had just in that moment of time, we're barely even halfway through and we haven't even gotten into breakouts. So this tells me it was a very juicy topic to go through together. I also observed in the delivery the simultaneous chats. I thought that was just magnificent. When it came to performance of duties, I love that duality between VPM to the president. So the president is always acknowledging VPM. VPM is always saying how to reach him. And again, just something really cool about our club that we do. Nice job in remembering, trying to help the speaker relaunch the poll, even though the speaker moved forward and was able to work right on in there. Kudos to you, Theo, but it was nice to see that this club wanted to relaunch the poll and again, remember where the speaker left off. So all eyes are on everyone who contributes to tonight. I did observe the president introducing the guests, and it was a nice collaboration moment. It's like in a Zoom meeting, we're all on camera, but if we were all in person, you'd be walking through the door, you'd be welcomed, your name would be said, you'd be introduced. It's nice to have that virtual mannerism here together. I did like that our president spent time with each guest one at a time. There was just a moment of focus on that person. Kind of a different way of applauding a new guest was to actually sit with the guest and talk to the person and let them know that they're acknowledged and appreciated. When it came to enthusiasm, there was a president and one of our president was saying that we would have one more club member to get to distinguished club. And I love it's almost like an invocation to come on in and join. And it also lets you know where we are and where we'd like to be. And that note to step up and serve. That was a very nice quote. I didn't catch who I heard that from. When it came to our speakers, if I can say, Theo, I really liked that even though things weren't going well with the poll, you were still able to drive home your message when the tool wasn't working. And I appreciate that you came prepared no matter what would happen. So as a leader, you were still able to lead us into knowing what the transitions were, especially for that model of letting go. And Ginny, you were saying some really neat things and that everybody will walk away with ready, fire, aim in a whole different light. So I appreciate the simplicity of your message. I did notice Kathy started with the past roles that she had succeeded with, and there was a point to that. She built a foundation and could look back at what she had built for the future to stand on. So this trio of transition messages was very, really just nailing it on how to, there was a word on how to remember how priceless community is, how to pay attention to people's paces as they're going through their own transition, and to sit there for a moment and remind them what transition they're into. And then, of course, here's Kathy with her history of roles as the foundation, and Mary just driving it right on home with her plan A, B, C, D. I wrote it down for simplicity. I hope that you were all blessed by hearing her just step right back into joining us and driving her own message home. I know I had 8 minutes and I'm trying to be as thorough as I can, but I'm only halfway through. And with what I've given, I hope that you've had some reality of tonight and can take home what you've heard. I'll just turn it right back over to our Madam Toastmaster.
Anyone have anything that they would like to comment on some of the previous speakers? Judy.
I thought that Kathy Cross-Reeves hit it right on when she said we were friendly, encouraging, and growth-driven.
Yep.
That is
Nail on
sounded
the head.
Definitely.
That's what we aim for.
Great.
I was thinking about Ginny's presentation, and I want to see if I can say this concisely. The chain of service, the idea of service is important because a lot of us join Toastmasters because, well, we need to learn a skill, we need to learn to speak, we need to learn how to run a meeting, but we don't see ourselves as leaders. And when somebody asks us to step up to leadership, we go, ah! But if they're asking us to step up to serve the club or to serve the clubs around us, that's a different animal. So we, when we're asking people to step up, need to remember to ask the question, use the right language. And when we're in it, we need to remember, yeah, we're learning leadership via an experiential process, but it's about being of service. Which
I think actually to tie on to that, Kyle, as VPM, I probably would have said this anyway, but Sound Advice in particular, and Nerd Masters, because they're both service clubs to the district ultimately, joining the club is powerful and helpful for us. I've learned a ton from both of those clubs. But by joining, you're actually providing a service to the district, and to even guests around the world. I mean, we have people from all over the place come and benefit from what we're doing, and so that's one of the unique things about I think particularly advanced clubs in District 32, that we have that focus on service, and I'm really proud of how much we've been able to help out the district in so many different ways. But even when we're not helping host and figure out a technical issue or figuring out how to do different pieces of things, just putting on things like this, providing value to the district and helping improve the leadership quality of everyone is really, really powerful and satisfying. It makes me feel like Toastmasters is really making an impact.
Good point, James. And I think just tying on to what Kyle had said, I've always kind of been reluctant to take on roles, at least in the past. I think I've gotten more confident and been able to take on the roles that have come open. But in the past, I think it was someone asking me to do it or telling me that they thought I might do a good job or something like that. And so I think people really need that encouragement and show them, give them confidence that they have, that you see that they can do it.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any comments?
I'm just going to add in and chime in along with this. So when I talk about chain of support, I find that if I ask someone if they would be willing to support other clubs and support other Toastmasters, of course. Why wouldn't I support my friends? Why wouldn't I support them in what they're doing? Why wouldn't I support them helping to learn how to do whatever it is? As opposed to saying, will you lead them? Because just like Kyle said, people are terrified of like, oh, I have to lead. I don't know what I'm doing.